going on, guys? Another knife to talk about today. We're looking at the Lacy Szabo folder. Look at this beast of a knife. This is like the cold steel of Spydercos. Usually you're not used to seeing Spydercos that are this large. This comes in at 10.25 inches overall. It's got a 4.6 inch S30V blade. Beautiful scimitar style blade here. Very much purposeful in defensive situations. That's what it was designed for. If you're not familiar with Lacy Szabo, it's definitely worth looking up. He is a legend in the industry. He was a police officer at one point in his life. He is a well-decorated Marine. He is a famous martial artist. And of course, he does design knives as well. And they're purpose-built for defensive use or fighting use. Anyway, huge knife. Has a compression lock on this one. On the back is a very interesting self-close mechanism, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video as well, which kind of sets us apart from some other models. Just really interesting. 5.6 inches closed. We have a beautiful, it's like a gold lined carbon fiber, and we'll talk more about that in a second as well. 6.9 ounces overall. These are unfortunately discontinued. You can no longer find these. That's the actual model number if you want to look them up. There are a couple on Amazon. They will not last very long at all. The description box, I'll put a link to the ones on Amazon. There's this one as well as like a cheaper carbon fiber version. I think that one has a black blade on that one. But anyway, super interesting knife. This is just a standard box, paperwork. What was really interesting is this knife came out after the Szabo Fly, which was a very cool ballast song, which a lot of people like, and it's still out there in the market, some places. But basically, the blade design was really interesting on that, and they carried it straight over to the folder. This is a beast of a folder. I mean, you can see in my hand, it's very large. It is very ergonomic. You can see all the cutouts here, nice finger choil, of course, deep guard on this as well. And if you watch choking up on it, of course, you have a natural thumb ramp, as a lot of Spydercos do. This one does not have any kind of jimping at all on there, which some people, I don't know. Some people are going to be upset by the fact that it doesn't have any kind of jimping or texturing there. But honestly, with a thumb ramp of this degree, it's not necessary. It really isn't. I don't know anyone out there who's using their knives, that doesn't have any kind of thumb jimping, and they have to stop using them because it doesn't have any kind of texturing there. I mean, like I said before, even if your thumb does slip off, where's it going? You're not going to cut yourself. You're not going to drop your knife. I don't see the obsession with jimping. I mean, yeah, in certain situations, it's a little bit more beneficial, but this knife was not designed for utility work. Now, that gets me into my next point, is that you can actually EDC this knife. I definitely think it's overkill just simply because of its size. But this blade style is actually really good for EDC. You wouldn't think it, but it's extremely pointy, okay? Very easy to penetrate into boxes, whether you're, ripping them open or, whatever kind of work you're doing. I would say most tasks, it is pointy enough to be effective, but not so pointy and so acute that it's going to be counterproductive. And what I mean by that is that some knives that come to a really extreme point, they tend to snap off with heavy abuse or use of that knife, especially if you're cutting all kinds of dense plastics and things of that nature. Although this comes to a very fine point, I don't think it's fine enough where it should be an issue. I think if you're using your knife properly, you're not going to find that it's going to snap off or bend on you or anything like that. So I don't think it's that big of an issue. Plus, there's a nice sweep on this, a lot of belly on this blade, so it's a great slicer. Sometimes when you look at a blade, you see the negative space. Obviously, there's a big cutout in the back here, which we'll talk about in a second what that's for. But, imagine if this was a standard leaf-shaped Spyderco. Okay? If you put steel in here, and you imagine my finger, that straight line across, that's a lot of different Spyderco models that people use for EDC all the time. But someone may look at this and initially critique it and say, I don't know, it's not as strong or whatever. That's a lot of BS, to be honest. You have to kind of look at the overall design here. There's no loss of strength or integrity by having this little cutout here. And what that cutout is for different types of holds. All right, again, this is designed around the mind of a martial artist, okay, and a fighter, a survivor. When this knife is held in the reverse grip, this cutout here works perfectly on the arm for different types of holds. So if you're in a position like this, okay, where you use your forearm here and the back of that blade, it grabs on to a wrist or a forearm for different types of defensive techniques. And to be honest, most of you out there watching the video, that sounds awesome. You're like, oh man, yeah, I want my knife to be able to do that. Well, are you ever really going to need to do that? Probably not. But I have to say, if you do study martial arts and different forms of self-defense, especially non-lethal self-defense, obviously if you have a blade open, the possibility of lethal contact is very high. But it does make it more capable for those type of situations. Having a cutout here makes it a lot more effective than just having a straight spine. Again, specifically designed around the idea of using for defense, and not just anyone for defense. A trained soldier or a trained martial artist can use this effectively, using, as I just showed, different types of holds and all kinds of different moves that most of us don't even know anything about. Now, I've studied a lot of knife defense. I've studied a lot of just mixed martial arts, and I'm not a professional at all. I know the concept of it. I have no hands-on world experience with any of it. I know the idea behind it. I know what to do, but in a real situation, am I going to use this knife to put some kind of a hold on someone? Probably not, to be honest with you. I mean, let's be real. I'm not a martial artist, and most likely you're not a martial artist either. But it's a pretty cool concept. The idea is there. If you do happen to be professionally trained in some of these tactics, this knife does excel over other ones using it for that specific use. So there you go. You can see let's talk about this handle a little bit. I'll zoom in. A nice close shot on this as I talk about it. This is a carbon fiber G10 laminate, okay? This is important to know. When you look at this and you see descriptions of different knives, it says carbon fiber. This has a layer of carbon fiber. However, it's not a solid piece of carbon fiber. This has basically G10 handles, and it has a very strong laminate of carbon fiber on top of it. So there's carbon fiber on the top of one side of the scale and carbon fiber on the other side of the scale. There's a very detailed gold fiber, or basically they use a gold wire. Okay, and then the gold is running this way and the opposite direction. It's so hard to see because it's reflective. And it looks like it's a zigzag pattern, but it's almost barely touching. But all the gold's running that way, and all the silver color is running the opposite direction. All right, and in person, it is definitely different than what you're seeing. I mean, I'm looking through the viewfinder right now, and it basically just looks like some silver zigzag, whatever. Actually, right there, you can kind of see the different coloration between the gold, again, running this way, and the silver running crosswise. So, it's just interesting. In person, it really shimmers. The gold stands out a lot more than silver in person. It's a really interesting handle material. And obviously you have the look of this really awesome carbon fiber, but you don't have as much of the cost because it is a laminate and not a solid carbon fiber. Since we're zoomed in here, you can also see that we have a free-flowing design, a couple of standoffs here. Our tube is for the lanyard hole, which is very large. You put a big lanyard on there, no problem at all. And actually, while I'm zoomed in, there's something else I want to show you as well. If you look on the inside of the scale, it's actually on the back here, but if you see in there, see how there's kind of like it looks like a line? All right, you can kind of see it towards the top of the scale on the inside. Now, this is on the inside of the knife. There's a channel cut out there. It's above those two circles, those holes. A little bit difficult to see, but there's a channel cut out, and there's actually a spring in there. This is really interesting. This is part of Spyderco's self-close system, and it uses a spring in addition to a piece, which I could probably show you this. I have to just put my hand behind here so it doesn't focus on the table. Now look inside where the tang is here. Let me do it this way. Get a tight shot right in there. As I kind of open and close this knife, you might be able to see there's almost like a pin. And that pin travels, it's right in there. It's so hard to explain this. I wish I can draw a diagram for you, whatever, but there's basically a channel cut out, okay? And what they use is this little pin that rides inside of the tang of the knife. And basically what happens is when you're closing this knife right around here, you feel it kind of suck in, whatever. Okay, instead of using a detent to keep this closed, they actually have a spring system in here that keeps it closed. Okay, they did this because it's a larger blade, and they knew that it would have more heft and more weight to it and stuff. It's just a really interesting concept. I mean, it's not going to shake out. Okay, I think it's even more effective than having a detent. Of course, it's going to be more expensive to do. It's just really interesting. Again, something that I like about Spyderco is that they're always willing to try new things, new designs, new concepts. I mean, the compression lock is a very cool concept on its own. Since not everyone is familiar with that, I'd say most people watching these knife reviews they understand it by now, but there's always new people every day who are learning about things. This is a compression lock. You can kind of consider it, even though it's completely different, it's kind of like a liner lock, only it's on the back. If you look at it that way, as far as disengaging it, you're basically pushing down on this. Okay, there is a cutout in the back scale, so it is easy to get your finger in there. All right, just push down, and it'll allow you to close the blade. But yeah, I mean, I like this self-close system. It's just really interesting. It's something that's new, but it's very effective. If you try some new stuff on knives and it doesn't work out that great, obviously you're not going to like it that much. But I like it. I think it's better than a detent. It doesn't have any kind of sometimes knives with detents, there's that specific stop point. And to open the knife, you have to kind of overcome that. You're not overcoming anything. It's very smooth. All you're doing is pushing against that spring tension. And right about here, it breaks. And there's no more tension pushing it closed, then you just obviously open it. But really smooth knife, really easy to use. Pocket clip is blacked out. It is tapped for all 4 positions, tip up, tip down, left or right hand carry. I think that if you're going to design a knife around defense, it is pretty crucial to give the user the option to carry it in any position they want, whether they want to carry this in a reverse position, or to draw it in reverse grip or whatever. You just need those options, I think, if you're going to do a defensive design. And obviously they did that here, so that was very good. So it's a thumbs up there. Just super ergonomic. You can hold it up here, you can choke down on it. All right, obviously this gives you a lot more reach. Nice large handle on here. Reverse grip is very comfortable. I would say reverse grip. Choke down is probably the most comfortable grip with this knife. And again, kind of designed around that scimitar blade. All right, so this is how a lot of people would be using this knife if, again, you're trained to use this knife in this, such a manner. The bottom is shaped nicely for your thumb to obviously land there as well. All right, let's take a look at this blade again. That thing is very intimidating looking. You do have a slight guard on here. What I like about this is if you follow this edge all the way down here, sometimes there'll be some problems where at the very, very edge before transition in the grind, it's usually dull. You get maybe a 1/16 of an inch or whatever that's almost unusable down here, but with this particular knife, it is razor sharp all the way down to the very edge of that edge. So, kudos to Spyderco for doing that. I mean, it's just a really good clean grind on this. It's beautiful. It's a really, really nice, very usable knife. Again, I would say most people buying this are probably going to buy it for a collector's piece. Because it's discontinued, it's going to be hard to find in the future. It is an interesting knife. It is a very large knife. There's not a whole lot of Spyderco folders that are this caliber. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it's like the cold steel of Spyderco's. It's fairly large. I'm not used to having such a large folder from this company. But it's very cool. It is very cool, and it's purposely built, again, to be a defensive blade, but you can definitely get away with using this for utility work. It's been fantastic. I mean, obviously I'm not out there fighting ninjas. I've been using this and testing it as a utility knife. And it does excel past even other knives that are purposely built for utility as opposed to defense. So it is a little bit more versatile. It is a very large package, and I do think it's a little cumbersome for an EDC, but if it's something that you like the design of, you can certainly use it. It's not too long where it's not going to fit in a pocket. I mean, I've had, massive cold steel models that fit in my pockets fine. The tension is perfect. Again, the handles are smooth. If I didn't mention that before, even though they're textured, it's still smooth to the touch. I'm trying to think of what this feels like. It feels kind of like a cutting board, a non-used one. Like if you go to the store and you get like a plastic cutting board or, you know, a synthetic cutting board before you use it, it's that kind of feel where it feels very, it's very textured, but it's still smooth at the same time, if that makes any sense. But anyway, you can see the hardware there is silver to match the blade. I believe if you get the black version, they black out the hardware. It is Torx all throughout, so of course you can't take this knife completely apart. As you saw in there before, it is drilled out a little bit to lighten the weight up. Doesn't take away from the integrity or strength at all from that the liners. It is completely steel lined, which is nice. You get that added strength, but 6.9 ounces on this, it doesn't feel heavy. That is a heavy weight for a folder, but considering its size, it's wieldy. It doesn't feel like there's any kind of heft to this. Just super smooth. So anyway, that's it. That's the Lacy Szabo folder, which is really interesting. I know a lot of people out there are looking for the Szabo Fly Balisong, but not a whole lot of talk about the folder so much. It had a short run. It didn't last all that long on the production line. So that's my review on this Lacy Szabo folder from Spyderco. Very, very interesting knife. Again, I'll put a link in the description box to Amazon. This exact model's, I think, $229 or $230, something like that. Originally, full retail was $300 on these, and that's about what they sold for at dealers, but you're going to be hard-pressed to find them. This exact one will be for sale in the future as well. Okay, so I'll be selling this exact one for the person who originally sent it to me. So stay tuned for that. I will do a video beforehand letting you guys know that the sale video is coming, because everyone always gets mad that they're not prepared for that. So you'll certainly get advance notice on that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I will see you soon. Take care.